Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to graph data using Google Sheets. So a lot of the science experiments we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to graph your data because that's just a nice thing to be able to do, to be able to visualize what you're talking about. So there are a lot of different ways you can do this. You can do this in Google Sheets. You can also do this in Microsoft Excel. But for this example, I'm just going to show you how to do it in Google Sheets. So when I'm going to do this, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my data here. And I'm going to press, so I'm currently selecting the Y values because I'm grabbing absorbance for starch, and I put in here absorbance, I put a Y, and starch, I put an X. That's to remind myself when we're done, I want these numbers on the Y axis and these numbers on the X axis. So I'm going to select the Y numbers first, always select the Y's first, and click on Insert. And then I'm going to go to click on Chart, and it takes me to here. So now this has made a column chart of my Y values. But I'm not going to ask you to use the column chart. We're going to use what's called a scatter plot. So click on the chart type, scroll down until you click on scatter plot. So now it just makes them as a number. But I don't want you just to look at your Y's. Let me shrink this down so we can see the numbers. We also are going to add X's. So over here, we're going to click on Add X-Axis. And then it tells you to select the data range. So the data range for here is the first X value is on B5. So we're going to put in B5. And then we're going to use a colon. And then the last one is on G5. So we're going to put in G5. And then we're going to press OK. So now we're graphing, so the absorbance is on the y-axis, and the percentage of starch is on the x-axis. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on one of the data points. We're just going to click not on the graph itself, on the data point, and it'll come up like this. And then we're going to add a trend line. So as you guys can see, this is kind of forming a line. So we're going to see exactly how good of a line it is, and we're going to click on trend line. And see, now it demonstrates a line. And for the label, we're going to select label, and instead of none, I'm going to have you guys put use equation. So then the equation of the line comes up. And I'm also going to have you click on show R squared. So what the R squared value is kind of a measurement of how good of a fit your line is. So I want that in the chart as well. So we're almost done. The last thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to scroll back up in the Customize. We're going to click on Chart and Axis Titles. So the vertical axis title is already in place. It says absorbance is Y. That's just how it already put it in there. If it didn't put it in there, you could type it in yourself. You could also go in, so we're going to use a horizontal axis. And in this case, I'm going to say the percent of starch. And after I type that in and press enter, it comes up on the graph. So one more thing we're going to do, we're going to go here and we're going to click on chart title. And it's giving us a chart title of absorbance. But I want you guys to use a title that kind of describes your experiment. So in this case, I'm going to write calibration curve because that's what this is. But if you're doing an experiment on something else, just use a title that matches what you're doing. And there we have our graph. So I might have you guys just share spreadsheets with me, or I will have you print off your graphs. And if I do that, you're going to click on print. And then it's going to take you to here. So it already sets the graph up by itself on its own page. If it doesn't do that, you can move it around a little bit on the chart, or you can just print it and then cut the graph out when you're done. And then from here, you just go to your normal printer, and there's your graph all ready to go. So thank you, guys.